What's going on, YouTube? I'm back. It's another episode of The Sauce. It's been a while, so in this one I have a lot to go over. Let's get saucing. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? My name is Matt, and welcome back to The Sauce. It's been a while, to say the least. My wife and I were on a vacation. We actually went to Philly, so I have a new shirt to add to my collection. I need something warm. It was rainy and chilly in the middle of summer, but you know, whatever it is, what it is. We had a great time, took in some history. I got to see Broad Street. I got some cool pictures of, some of the Broad Street bullies, Bobby Clark and Ron Hextall. So that was pretty cool. I got next to that statue. So anyway, I digress. Here's a picture. Moving on. So in the last video that you all saw, I was creating my bracket. My bracket is destroyed and very messy, I might add, because of all the crossing out I've had to do. Plus, I've added my wife's picks in here, so it's very hard to read. But if you go back and watch that video, you'll know that the final four that I had picked, as you can see, 3 of the final 4 are not there anymore. Which, I mean, the Lightning are there, so I'm happy that they're in the final 4. But for pick sake, it's all messy. All messy! We got a lot to talk about. But I don't want it to be a super long video, so I'm going to try to challenge myself as I have in the past. I'm going to try to get through each division. There's the final 4, so I'm going to try 4 minutes spent at least, or at minimum, I don't know. No longer than 4 minutes on each division. Let's go. Let's get tossing. North Division, Winnipeg versus Edmonton. Winnipeg stuns the hockey world, sweeps Edmonton. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl don't amount to much of anything in this series. Connor McDavid had over 100 points in 56 games. Can't seem to get any points going against this Winnipeg Jets team. They did a phenomenal job at shutting down their high-octane offense. But more to come later in the next series. Toronto and Montreal. This is probably the best team that Toronto has iced, fielded, however you want to say it, in the past bunch of years. I don't know how you want to say it. Austin Matthews is the one who wins the Maurice Rocket Richard, who is the goal scoring leader for the regular season. Montreal wins game 1, Toronto wins the next 3, then Montreal storms back, wins the next 3 games, and wins in game 7 to upset Toronto, and the media goes nuts. Montreal, what an amazing upset, phenomenal story. Carey Price stole some games like I said he would, but I didn't think it would get to this. As you can see, I had Toronto coming in as the Stanley Cup final and coming out of that division. That didn't happen. So Montreal moves on to play Winnipeg. So you have 2 huge upsets with Winnipeg and Montreal. Winnipeg coming off a sweep, Montreal coming off this super high, beating the number 1 Toronto, and Montreal sweeps Winnipeg. The Winnipeg team that defeated the Edmonton Oilers and swept them, nowhere to be found. Montreal just is hungry, they're attacking, they're all over the place, or all over Winnipeg, and Carey Price just stones everything that Winnipeg throws at them. The biggest storyline, I guess, for that series was in game 1, Mark Scheifele laid out a huge hit that injured one of the Montreal players. Forgive me, I don't remember his name. Wasn't looking good. He's better now, but Scheifele, who's normally a very clean player, just frustrated in game, lays out a hit. The kid was trying to put in an empty net goal, gets suspended for the rest of the series. He can't even play and help his team try to beat Montreal. Montreal winds up winning the series, and Montreal are the kings of the North, as the media has been saying, so they move on to the Final 4, and they play the winner of the Colorado-Vegas series, which we'll get into in just a moment. All right, so in the West, Colorado sweeps St. Louis. Don't really need to go into super depth there. St. Louis does not look like the team they were a few years ago or even last year. But then again, St. Louis did get eliminated in the first round again last year, but they did not get swept. They were the Stanley Cup champions. They lost in Game 7 to an underdog Vancouver. In this one, the powerhouse Colorado shows why they're the powerhouse and sweeps the St. Louis Blues. Not the outcome I predicted, but the winner I did. Vegas and Minnesota was the only series that I predicted not only the correct winner, but the correct games. The only one in the entire board that you're seeing here was the only one that everything was correct. Minnesota puts up a huge fight against the powerhouse Vegas. I mean, that was a phenomenal series to watch. I almost thought there was a possibility Minnesota could take Vegas. Vegas shows why they contested for the President's Trophy, wins it in 7 games. They go on to play Colorado, the series we all knew would come to fruition, and it hasn't disappointed. Colorado-Vegas is actually still ongoing. Game 6 is tonight, and Vegas has the chance to win and close out the series. As you can see, I picked Vegas in 7, so Colorado needs to win tonight, and Vegas wins the next day, but Vegas beat Colorado in Colorado, so I think they closed it out tonight. That place is going to be rocking. Yes, there are fans now in the stands, and we'll see what happens. I don't know. This is going to be an awesome finish. It's been an exciting series. Game 1 was a blowout by Colorado. They won like 7-1. Vegas rested Marc-Andre Fleury. Since then, even though Colorado won the overtime game 2, Vegas has been the better team the past couple of games. Colorado was probably the better team the last game in Colorado, but Vegas just poured it on in the end, tied the game, forced overtime, winning it overtime. Game 6 tonight. Let's see who wins. Central Division. Man, oh man. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy that Tampa has moved on and is in the Final Four and has a chance at repeating the Stanley Cup champions. However, not what I predicted. Carolina Hurricanes Nashville Predators was an awesome series. I think the best series were honestly in the Central Division. I know that sounds biased, but Nashville took it to Carolina. I did not think it would go over 5 games. I wanted to put a sweep, but I didn't think Nashville would allow themselves to be swept. They took it to Carolina. Almost every game in that series went to overtime. Nashville almost forced Game 7. Carolina barely moves on. Proves why they were the number 1 in the regular season. However, Nashville put on a hell of a show, and it was an awesome series by both teams. The crowd in Nashville was cheering even at the end of the series, and deservedly so. Nashville put up a great fight. So, moving on to Florida and Tampa Bay. So Florida-Tampa Bay, this series did not disappoint. Super high scoring, super high flying. Again, not the outcome I predicted. I am also happy about it, but Florida just has a lot of promise. I think utilizing all 3 goalies really shows what they have in the future of Spencer Knight. They played Sergei Bobrovsky, Spencer Knight, and Chris Driedger. I think, as I've said before, they cut their losses. They expose Bobrovsky to the Seattle expansion draft if they can. I think he has a new movement clause, so they'd have him waive that. Free up $10 million in cap space. Spencer Knight and Chris Driedger are your goalies of the future. Boom, and they can spend that $10 million on the rest of the team. That's just, if I were GM for a day, that's what I would do. Have Bobrovsky waive his no movement clause and tell him try again somewhere else. But Tampa Bay, high-scoring games except for the final where Tampa shuts out Florida. Tampa moves on to play Carolina. So Tampa Bay and Carolina just finished actually, and definitely more low-scoring except for Game 4. There were 8 goals scored in the second period. That game was nuts to watch. But Tampa Carolina was a lot less high-scoring than the Florida-Tampa series. Great matchup. Tightly contested series. Ultimately, Tampa Bay wins that series and moves on. Rod Brindamore, the Carolina Hurricanes coach, had a lot to say to had a lot to say about Andrei Vasilevskiy on the stellar performance that he had. I think Andrei Vasilevskiy was the MVP of that series, really stole some of those games for Tampa Bay, and Tampa moves on to the Final Four. They play the winner of the East Division. Yet again, another division that did not go at all as I predicted. So in the East, the New York Islanders upset the Pittsburgh Penguins. A lot of upsets. If Colorado does not win this series, not a single number 1 seed will have advanced to the Final Four. Which is not shocking, but it's just kind of like an interesting fact and how that worked out. So New York Islanders upset the Pittsburgh Penguins in 6 games. A lot of costly mistakes by Pittsburgh. I really think, just like Boston, after this year, their window is closing. I know what I said in my first video, thinking that Boston and Pittsburgh were going to be out of the playoffs. They show that they can hang around still. I don't know if the same could be said for next year, but we'll see. So New York Islanders upset the Pittsburgh Penguins. Washington Capitals, Boston Bruins. Ends in 5 games. Washington looked slow, looked flat. First 2 games were the only opportunity Washington had to take a lead in the series. After that, they just did not look like themselves, and the Boston Bruins took it to them. So that's another team, Washington Capitals. Is their window closing? What are they going to do in the offseason? Does Ovechkin re-sign with them? Let's see. So Boston moves on to play the New York Islanders. 2 really rough and tough franchises, 2 rough and tough fan bases. This one also just ended last night. New York Islanders beat the Boston Bruins in 6 games, and similar to the Pittsburgh series, Boston made some costly mistakes. The Boston power play, while it was good, the New York Islanders' depth, they're one of the deepest teams in the league. All 4 lines can match up against anyone. Their goaltending tandem with Semyon Varlamov and Ilya Sorokin is just phenomenal. So they move on. They play the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Final Four for the second year, well, back-to-back years. So it's a rematch of last year. And we'll see where it goes from there. So there you have it. That's a quick recap, as quick as I could make it. I think I did pretty good on time. But so we're almost at the Final Four. Montreal will play the winner of Colorado, Vegas. Tampa and New York, I believe, start Wednesday. So I'll have to make another video shortly here. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you all so much for watching. We are back. We're back from Philly. We had a great time. Maybe I'll post some pictures up here. Who knows? But thank you again for watching this episode of The Sauce. Make sure you click like on this video. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Share this to your friends. And stay saucy. We'll see you next time.